Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We have a small group so far, so let's give it a couple of minutes. It is exactly 11 o'clock, but let's give it 3 minutes, 11:03, and I'll be back. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, as mentioned, we are going to get started in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, just let me know in the chat if you do have a buyer's presentation, if it's something that you use regularly. Chat with me, let me know so I can I know who I'm talking to today. Thanks so much. All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be talking about the buyer presentation. So thanks to those of you who are chatting with me. I would love to know if you guys haven't mentioned anything in the chat box, if you do have a buyer presentation, if it's something that you use regularly. So far, the people who have reached out to me have said that they don't have a buyer presentation right now, which is fine. That's the whole purpose of this webinar today. So I hope it is something that you implement. I think that it is super important to really build that loyalty. So many times I hear from realtors here at Zolo, and elsewhere, that you reach out to a client, you have a good conversation, you take them out, you do a few showings, they seem interested, and then they stop answering your calls. What happened, right? So I think this buyer presentation really can build that loyalty. And there's a few reasons for that. Specifically, if you do it well, if you implement it into your business, and we'll talk about when you can implement it, I think that's going to present you as a professional. You know what you're doing. You're going to educate them on the process. And as I said, this will build loyalty, right? So people will trust you, and people do business with people that they trust. So let's jump into it. If you guys have questions, comments throughout this, please let me know. I will be sharing a couple of samples, and I'm happy to share this with you. I can upload the template so that you guys can, as I said, implement it into your own business. All right. Let's see, let's switch the slides there. All right, so why have a buyer presentation? I'm pretty sure most of you guys have a listing presentation, but as I said, what about that buyer presentation? So why would you implement that into your business? As I've already touched on, it's going to build loyalty, but it's also going to qualify the customer, right? You're going to find out a little bit about what they're looking for, hopefully, right? And then again, you can educate them on the process. So it's about qualifying the customer. It's also about building trust. As I said, also, people do business with people that they trust. So if you're just there to book showings and open doors, that's not going to really build that strong loyalty, right? You really want to be educating them on the process. You want to be the obvious choice for them. You also want to set expectations, right? So again, this is about the market, what's happening right now. Again, this is building that trust. They are going to see you as a professional. They're going to see you as an active realtor, not somebody who's just doing this part-time on the side and doesn't really know what's going on. You want to be setting expectations, right? Even if it's a lease lead, letting them know leases are going for full ask, if not a little bit more. And certainly with buyers, we're looking at multiple offer situations and explaining the process to them in a way that they're not going to feel overwhelmed by that. A lot of buyers will throw their hands up right away and say, you know what, we don't want to compete. We don't want to be in a bidding war. And that's when you can set expectations, right? It's likely that this will go into multiple offers, but I've done this before and I have a process and I'm going to share that with you, right? Right there, that's going to put them at ease. And also, again, it sets the expectations that, there are going to be multiples. So if you're thinking that you can come in, $50,000 under ask, you've got all the conditions in there, your closing date is 3 months out, that's probably not going to get accepted in today's market. So again, setting those expectations, right? And that also ties in with qualifying the customer. If they aren't pre-approved, if they have a timeline that's way out there, it's probably going to be a little bit difficult to find them something. So it's qualifying them and setting their expectations, right? And throughout that, building trust so that ultimately, of course, you can get that buyer representation agreement signed, right? They want to work with you. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but back in the day when we used to do open houses, did you ever have somebody come in and they had a stack of business cards that were their realtor's business cards, and they would show up to the open house saying, no, I'm already working with a realtor, here's their card, and they would give that to you. I had that experience, and I always wondered, how did that realtor prep that client? How is that client so loyal, right? And I think it has a lot to do with the buyer presentation, educating them, and then them feeling really confident that that's their agent, right? That's who they're going to work with, and they're ready to tell all other agents that they are committed and working with that particular realtor. So let's do that for us as well here today. All right. So let's talk about qualifying the customer. Again, I will be showing you samples of the buyer presentation, but let's just talk quickly about qualifying the customer and what that means. I have shared this acronym with you guys before. It's, for ease of reference, it's the LP MAMA acronym. So basically what you want to be doing here is you want to be qualifying them. You want to be determining what their search criteria is, right? And that's going to be their location, their price point, their motivation, right? So you definitely want to be narrowing in on whereabouts they want to move and why, right? So the why is going to give you their motivation, right? So if they're saying maybe they're first-time home buyers, they don't want to rent anymore, right? So you know that their timeline is probably going to be 60 days out once they find something because they have to give notice to their landlord. You might have a situation where somebody is looking for that particular school district, right? So you know that maybe their motivation or their timeline, their motivation is the school district, so their timeline may be September, right? So if you're working with them in the spring, summer, they're probably going to want to find something before the start of the school year. So it's really important to know why they're looking so that you understand their timeline. Also, it's going to tailor your services, right? So if they say to you, we're really far out, but we do want to see what's out there. We just kind of want to take a look. I do always recommend going on that in-person showing, even if they are a year away from buying anything, because you want them to remember you, right? So do that buyer consultation. Let them know that you can send them properties, even though they're not ready right now. You're going to educate them on the market. You're going to keep them updated on all of the changes so that when they are ready, they know what's happening, they feel comfortable, and they want to work with you. So Location, price, motivation, those are definitely things you want to be asking on the phone. Of course, you want to be asking if they are already working with an agent. If they are committed, then that agent has already won their business. If not, then this is your opportunity to gain their business. And then of course, you also want to know if they've been pre-approved. Again, I always recommend going to the in-person showing. You don't want to just have that phone call with them and then refer them to a mortgage broker, because the chances of them coming back to you, again, are pretty slim, right? Unless they've met you. So again, even if they're not pre-qualified, take the time, go show them a property, go show them a couple of properties. Say, this is what you're going to find in this price range. Let me put you in touch with my mortgage broker so that he can confirm that this is in fact your price range, or maybe we can go a little bit higher. Maybe, we have to look at properties that are priced a little bit lower, whatever the situation is, right? But have that face-to-face meeting. So scheduling the appointment. So of course, I always talk about that initial phone call. So starting that call with, how can I help you, getting all of their search criteria out of the way, turning the table so that you can then educate them on the process so they're familiar with what to expect. And then of course, ending that call with a scheduled appointment, right? So when are you available to see properties? We're so lucky here at Zolo that these leads aren't just registering to the site and we're calling them based on nothing. We're calling them because they've actually inquired about a property. So it's really easy to convert that call to an appointment because they've already expressed interest in a particular property. So ask them how you can help, get their search criteria, educate them on the process, and go to that appointment. So there's a little acronym that you guys can remember, keep it top of mind. As I said, it's really important to build trust. So yes, you're qualifying the customer, you're asking them about their search criteria, whether or not they're pre-approved, all of that. But building trust is really going to be when you take over that initial conversation and you start to talk to them about the process, right? So as I already mentioned at the beginning, not expecting to go in $100,000 under ask, right? But really showing them comparables even, right? And that's something that you can do in your buyer presentation, which again, I'll show you in a moment. So you might want to be talking to them about, okay, if this is your particular neighborhood, this is the pocket you want to be in, then let's take a look at some recently sold properties in that area, right? I had an example the other day of a lead coming in. They wanted to see properties for, they wanted to see one particular property for $899, but that particular property wasn't just holding off on offers. They were, wanting offers to be presented on Wednesday, I believe. But also, if you look at the history of the address, you can see that it was previously terminated. In this case, it was previously terminated 3 different times, right? They started at 1.2, then they went down to 1.15, then they went down to 1.1, and now they're at 899, right? Expecting multiples. So this is where you can educate the client and let them know, right? Not just the process, but also, okay, you're interested in this particular property. Let me tell you a little bit about it. It's listed for $899 right now. They will get multiple offers. And the seller's expectations are probably going to be in the 1.1 because they just did a price reduction from 1.15, didn't get what they wanted. So, that's the history and that's probably their expectations. And if they say to you, you know what, my max budget is 900 or 950, then let's not see this property. Let me send you other properties that are available in that price range, right? So it's always about having that conversation, finding out what it is that they really want and giving that to them, right? Not showing them properties that they're not going to be that are going to be outside of their range, right? So talking to them about the process and talking to them about the particular properties that they're interested in, giving them a little bit of insight, right? So that's information that they probably wouldn't have all the access to, right? So the process for buyers, this is something that you can include in your buyer presentation, is a roadmap. There's a bunch of these that you can download. This is just one example of a few that I've come across. This is something that I include in my buyer presentation, and it's a buyer's roadmap. So it simply lays out the process, and it's also really great for you to have because you can address all of the steps and use those as your talking points, right? So you don't forget about anything, or you're not saying things kind of out of order and overwhelming the client. You can use something like this in your buyer's presentation. And again, we'll talk about how you can present this, whether it's in person or online. But really, you want to be telling them that yes, their first step is to meet with you, right? And ideally they're already pre-approved, but if not, let's meet, let's go see some properties, let's talk about the process. I have some mortgage brokers that I can put you in touch with, right? Because that's definitely going to be a step that we need to do before we really get serious about searching for properties, because we want to make sure that when we're searching for homes, we are searching for the homes that you qualify for, right? And again, not looking at homes that are listed for $899 if we know they're going to go for 1.1, if your budget is only $950. So let's really know what your pre-approval is, and let's search for homes that are realistic in that price range. And then of course, talking to them about making an offer. So this is something that, again, you can talk about with them, but then also I like to recommend maybe sending an email with the forms. So this is something that I think a lot of people, buyers aren't familiar with the forms until the actual, the first time they're writing an offer, which I think is, it can, again, overwhelm the client, right? So the whole purpose of a buyer presentation is to make sure that the clients feel comfortable and they know exactly what to expect, right? So making an offer, let them know what the process is. So for example, you can say, yes, they're holding off on offers until Wednesday. I'll prepare all the paperwork. I'm going to send you an email with all of the explained forms so that you can take a look at it before I send it to you by AuthentiSign or DocuSign for your electronic signature. I want you to read through them. There's going to be writing in red for each paragraph that explains exactly what each paragraph talks about. If you have any questions, let me know. We can address that before we get to the offer stage, right? Really, the whole purpose, again, of this buyer presentation is you're handling objections before the objections happen, right? I don't know how many of you have had the experience where you've sent a buyer representation agreement, it's part of your offer documents, they're getting it for the first time, they're looking at it for the first time, and they see that paragraph about commission, where they may be responsible for the commission, and now they're asking you questions about that, they're worried about that, but you have a deadline, right? That offer is due today at 4 p.m., and now you're answering questions that really should have been addressed at the very beginning. So again, the purpose of a buyer presentation. So letting them know that at the offer stage, you'll be preparing the offer. There are different documents that are involved with that. You can tell them what those are, and then letting them know, I'm going to email you all of these explained forms so that you can read through each paragraph, read the writing in red. It puts everything in plain language. And if you still have questions, let me know. So that's the next step. And then of course, letting them know how you are going to negotiate the contract. Just one moment here. All right, so negotiating the contract, letting them know that you submit the offer at a given time, and sorry, one second, I'll turn that back on. So letting them know that you are going to submit an offer at a given time, and then letting them know how long it usually takes for them to get a response, making sure your clients are available. Again, I don't know how many of you have ever been in this situation where you get, maybe a call back from the listing agent to improve your offer, or maybe a call back saying they're going to work with your offer, and then you can't get a hold of your buyer, right? So definitely making sure that you are letting them know well in advance that if we do have an offer in play, I need you guys to be available to me so that we can make any changes as necessary and we can get this deal done, right? So letting them know about that and how it is that you're going to communicate with them so that they, again, know what to expect. And once it is accepted, what happens then, right? The deposit. So, you want to make sure that the client is well aware that this is a contract. And once the offer is accepted, they do have 24 hours after acceptance to submit the deposit, right? So, unless otherwise stated in the agreement, of course, but let them know that. So if, you don't want the buyer to then be telling you, oh yeah, no, we'll deliver the deposit, once we're happy with the inspection, right? No, you have 5 days for the inspection. The deposit has to be delivered within 24 hours of acceptance. So again, letting them know that's the expectation. You're not dealing with that once you have an accepted offer because you've done a buyer presentation, you've prepared them, and they know they have 24 hours to deliver 5% of the deposit. And also if that's going to be a problem, if they don't have it available to them, if they need to transfer money from one account to the other, then they're doing that in advance so that if their offer is accepted, they're ready to go with that deposit. Final details are going to be obviously doing the due diligence. So the buyer will have to do we'll have to arrange for the home inspector. Again, you can provide recommendations. They'll also have to confirm their financing if that's a condition in the offer. So letting them know that once all of those details have been finalized, there is another form that you're going to have to send to them, removing those conditions or fulfilling those conditions, whichever the case is, right? So again, you're letting them know there's still more paperwork to sign. We're not quite done. And then once everything is acceptable to them, right? So yes, they have an accepted offer, but they still have 5 days to determine whether or not they're satisfied with their financing, they're satisfied with the home inspection, right? It's at that point that they're making that final decision, and then it's a firm deal, and you can look forward to closing day. So having something like this in your buyer presentation is a really great way to keep you on track so that you can educate them on the process. All right, I have some questions coming in, which is always good. Where can I find the explanation for each clause? Yeah, great question. So, and it brings me to my next slide. So the forms are explained. The clauses, though, are not included in this, I do not believe. So if you are downloading the agreement of purchase and sale, obviously all of those paragraphs, it's all legal jargon, so that will be explained in writing in red. I find that the clauses in Schedule A are going to be a little bit more straightforward. It's in plainer English, so hopefully, you can explain the Schedule A maybe before you present an offer, but do send them the explained forms, because I think these are the sections that really get asked about. If you have a client who's thoroughly reading that, they'll have questions about it for sure. So make sure you download these explained forms, the agreement of purchase and sale, confirmation of co-op, and definitely your buyer representation agreement and working with a realtor. You want to have something in your buyer presentation that prompts you to talk about the different relationships, client, customer, or maybe it's something in your buyer presentation that you put in there so that it's clear to them what how you're helping and what the different relationships are between them and the brokerage. So you can find the explained forms on the OREA website. So really quickly, you can Google them, OREA explained forms. It'll bring you to this, and you can download them. So save them somewhere on your computer so that you can send it to your clients. Again, I haven't quite gotten to the different ways that you can present this, but one of those, of course, is going to be by email. So you can attach these to your email. So talking about expectations, I've already covered that a little bit with that roadmap. But let's see, expectations. Yeah, so just letting them know whether they can expect, for example, multiples, whether they're accepting offers anytime. Look at the address history so that you know what the sellers might be expecting. Call the listing brokerage, of course, making sure that they, you know their desired closing date. Hopefully that's something that you can match for them, right? So knowing about the property and then knowing about what's sold recently as well, so that you can explain that to your clients and they know what the expectation is, right? Again, I've already used this example, but you don't want them going into putting in an offer on a property that is well below ask, and that's nowhere near what other properties have sold for. So really making sure that you set those expectations, because at the end of the day, also, it's going to save you time, right? You don't want to be running around with clients who are just, wanting to lowball every single offer. You need to set those expectations. And if you realize that they're just not going to get there, then, move on to the next clients. If they're really just going to be lowballers, you need to set their expectations that that's not the market we're in. All right, and talking about the market, how do you find out what's happening? Yes, of course, you have your own firsthand experience, but I did want to point out that the Zolo website and the Zolo app is there and available to you, and it provides a bunch of information. So if you were to if you were to Zolo, I guess is the word, you were to put in the search bar Toronto, whatever neighborhood it is that you're looking in, then you can just simply type in Toronto, Oakville, whatever it's going to be. All of the listings are going to come up, but what you may not have noticed is that there's something there called market stats. So this is something that you can share with your clients. You can do it real time, right? Especially if you are doing a virtual buyer presentation, you can pull up the Zolo app and click on market stats for your particular area. That will bring you to a page that looks like this. There's a bunch of information, but I think what's really important to highlight right now, especially if you do have clients who are expecting to, as I said, offer really low on a property that is expecting multiple offers, you can let them know average days on market is 16 days, right? Which usually means they're listing it, they're allowing a week and a half or so of showings, they're taking offers, there may be conditions, and then it's sold, right? So it's moving quite quickly. And then also something else that you can let them know is that the selling to listing price ratio is 102%. So again, if they're expecting to come in way under, that's not the market we're in. On average, listings are selling for 102% of their list price. So sharing that with them. You can also look at the specific property. And again, this is something that you can show your clients. So for example, if you were to pull up this property on the Zolo website or on the app, Obviously, it's going to show up with all the pretty pictures, all of the information from MLS. But if you scroll down, there is a section that is called Home Value. And if you click on that, or if you expand that, depending on whether or not you're on the website or on the app, it's going to tell you that the approximate price of this particular property, so a 3-bedroom house in this area, is 1.088 in this example. So if you go back up, it's listed for 1.099. So this is also something really great to have in your back pocket, meaning the Zolo app, because if they do ask you, what do you think of this price, and you haven't quite done the comparables yet, and just jump on the Zolo app, scroll down, take a look at home value, and this, I have done manual comparables, and this is pretty accurate. So it's something that you can trust, and just let them know, you know what, it seems to be priced really well. I wouldn't say that it's priced high if there's a $10,000 difference. Just let them know it seems to be, priced really well. And there's some other details here that you can talk to them about that, again, make you sound knowledgeable, right? So homes like this are selling on average in about 7 days. So definitely, if you're interested, let's put in an offer. 5 out of 10 of these homes are sold over asking. So this isn't something that we want to go in and lowball. So just stats like that, right? And letting them know, again, what to expect. And this is how you can set their expectations, by talking to them about the market, which always changes, but you have it at your fingertips. Use the Zolo website, use the Zolo app. All right, because ultimately, yes, you want to have that BRA signed. So let's talk about how to present that buyer presentation. So there's going to be a bunch of different ways. You can kind of incorporate it into your initial conversation that you have with a buyer lead that comes in. You could certainly do it in person. So you can have that conversation on the phone, maybe leaving out all of the details that you would have in a buyer presentation. And maybe you attend the showing, and with you, you bring a folder, you have the MLS listing, maybe you have a sample BRA, buyer representation agreement, maybe you have that roadmap printed out, and maybe it's something that you just go through with them in person after you've shown them a couple of homes, right? So again, it may be part of your conversation. You may save the details for that in-person showing, or you might schedule a virtual meeting with them. So we're using Zoom right now. This is a PowerPoint presentation. You can, have that conversation with your with that lead that comes in, and you can say, you know what, do you have time for a 15-minute Zoom call, and I'll walk you through the process. So it's up to you whether you want to do that before the showing or after the showing, just so that you can explain the process better, and that way share your screen. And another idea I really like is that you can do a pre-recorded video. How cool would that be? Just to have something that you've already prepared. So maybe you do have a PowerPoint presentation, you've done the slide, maybe you're not including market stats in that particular case. Maybe it's a pre-recorded video, just talking generally about the process, so that you can just send that in an email after your initial conversation. They can watch your buyer presentation, and then when you do meet them in person, you can go over some of the key points. You can talk about the market, because that changes all the time. So you can kind of use a bit of everything here to really incorporate a buyer presentation, or answer all of their questions, right? So starting with that initial conversation, taking some pieces with you in that in-person meeting, and maybe in between those two steps, setting a meeting, a virtual meeting, or sending a pre-recorded video. So let's talk about the initial conversation. So the initial conversation, when a lead comes in, hopefully you're answering your phone. If not, you're calling them back. Introducing yourself as an agent with Zolo.ca, reminding them about the property that they viewed. And I always like to let them start the conversation. So I've already touched on this at the beginning, talking to them about what it is that they're looking for, right? So they have the floor, right? They're going to tell you what their search criteria is. They're going to tell you their timeline, and you're asking them questions. You're using that acronym that I showed at the beginning, the LP MAMA: location, price, motivation. So you're talking to them about that. But once you've finished listening to them, and you've actively listened, right, because you can repeat back to them all of their search criteria, you do want to then turn it around and explain the process. And this is kind of your buyer presentation over the phone, right? Are you familiar with the buying process? Are you familiar with the renting process, right? And so you're going back to that roadmap, and you can kind of talk about that maybe, you know, a little bit more superficially, not in so many details. You don't know how much time people have on the phone, but you can certainly take the time to educate them and let them know, you know, let's schedule a showing. You know, from there, I'll put you in touch with some mortgage brokers if you're not already qualified, or if you're not sure what to spend, you know, so you can talk to them about the process that we already kind of went through with the roadmap. So that's going to show your knowledge, right? So this is your opportunity to educate them. And then of course you want to convert it to a showing, right? You want to convert this call to a showing so that you can take them out on person. So if you did incorporate a little bit of your buyer presentation over the phone, now show up to the property with that roadmap, with a sample contract, right? With the MLS listing, you know, maybe even a printout from Treb stats if you want to go over the market and what's happening right now, right? If you're just showing up to a buyer presentation and unlocking the door and standing, you know, in the kitchen while they explore the house, whatever your method is, try to incorporate some of this and see if that changes the response that you're getting, the loyalty that you're getting from these online leads, right? Because yes, we're fortunate that they're asking about a property. It's easy to get them to a showing, but now let's get them to the offer stage and let's get them to work with you, right? So educating them about the process initially on the phone, and then showing up at that showing with some forms that you can share with them, and that roadmap. At the very least, that roadmap and the MLS listing in a Zolo folder, that could be your in-person buyer presentation. Again, I'll show you one virtually. So here's something that you can do between the initial phone call and that showing. You can send them an email, right? And so you can actually send them an email with your buyer presentation. So you can confirm their search criteria, right? You were listening to what it is that they're looking for, so you can reiterate that back to them. You're confirming their search criteria because you're also going to be setting them up on a Treb search, right? So they're going to be getting emails directly from you with listings that they're interested in that fit their budget. They're going to confirm the appointment, right? Because they inquired about a property. You're going to say, you know, I've requested the appointment for Saturday at 1. I'll get back to you with confirmation. And in the meantime, check out my website, right? Put a link to your About Me. This is how they're going to get to know you. The Zolo website does already a really great job that, you know, a lead is assigned to you. So every single time they inquire about a property, they see you. That definitely builds rapport and trust. But take it a step further. If you do have a website, maybe send them that link that talks about your background, what you did before real estate, or how long you've been in real estate. You know, make it a little bit personal as well. Talk about who you are, what your hobbies are. Sometimes people, you know, that's who they're going to relate with. Yes, you're knowledgeable, but maybe so is the other realtor that they just got off the phone with. But you know what? You play tennis and they play tennis. So, you know, they like you more already. So, you know, just be a little bit personal with that, and send them that link to your website that talks about yourself. And like I said, professionally, obviously, but also personally. And then you might even want to send them a buyer questionnaire, right? So this is another thing that I haven't touched on yet. Sure, you've talked to them, they've told you what their search criteria is, but maybe you can send them a questionnaire and make it easy for them. Do a Google form. It's another link that they just click on. They can fill it out online, and they can let you know, all of the details that you already discussed, but you might ask them more questions, right? About their motivation, whatever it is. I think I have a sample of a questionnaire coming up, but you know, you can just get a little bit more in-depth information from them if you do send them a questionnaire. And then setting your buyer presentation. So there are a few places that I recommend that you go to download a template, and one of them is going to be breakthroughbroker.com. They're free, so I like recommending free, and you can tweak it obviously to personalize it. You can upload your picture, you can obviously put the Zolo logo on there, put your phone number so that they know how to reach you. So you know, you can customize a buyer presentation very easily through Breakthrough Broker, and just have that as part of your email that gets sent out after your initial conversation, right? So we'll talk about that. I'll show you what the Breakthrough Broker buyer presentation look like, and I'll show you one that I created as well in Canva, another great free resource, but it's there isn't really a template. You kind of create it yourself. If you know what you want to say and you know what you want to do, Canva might be another option for you, just to personalize it to your branding if you have something, if you do have like your own logo and stuff like that that you want to incorporate. All right, and then of course, as I said, you want to be sending those Treb listings and getting to that appointment, getting to those showings. All right, I've got some questions coming in, which I love. All right. Where can I find? Good idea. Okay, thanks. I don't know what idea was, but okay, good. I'm glad. Search forms explained when you log into MLS. Oh yeah, you can do that as well. Yeah, totally. So yeah, I mentioned the OREA, but you're absolutely right. You know, they're it's just all about searching for them and you will find them. They do exist. So do yourself a favor and do download that, because actually that's a good point here with your follow-up email. As I said before, you're attaching your buyer presentation, but you can also attach those explained forms, right? It'll hopefully save you some explaining, right? When it comes to that legal jargon. All right. So here's an example of that follow-up email. You know, thank you for your interest in properties. You're reiterating what their search criteria was. And then, of course, you can identify yourself as a buyer specialist. You know, don't forget to tell people also that you do listings as well. You know, I don't know if you've had this. I know a common question when we get leads come in, you know, the lead will ask if you're the listing agent. I always like to say, you know, I'm a buyer specialist. I can show you, you know, any property that you find. You don't have to reach out to each individual listing agent. I can, you know, schedule all the showings and send you an itinerary, you know, so that we can see properties back to back. So I do like to say that, but then also let them know, maybe that's something you include in your buyer presentation, your other services, right? So you can list obviously a property if they have something to sell, right? Before deciding on buying something. So as a buyer specialist, I can show you properties that may be of interest to you. I look forward to working with you and helping with your home search. So in addition to this, as I mentioned in the last slide, you know, send links to your About Me page. You have a Google form that, you know, maybe you ask them to complete. You can even say not mandatory, just helpful, right? Because you don't want them feeling overwhelmed, like, oh God, I have to give her all this information. It's just something that's going to help you, but definitely some sort of buyer presentation is helpful as well. All right, so let's talk about that in-person meeting. I did already mention, you know, showing up to that showing with, you know, a buyer presentation printed out. Like I said, I mean, we have technology, right? We've got PowerPoint, we've got Zoom meetings. So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily print out a whole buyer presentation and have it like, you know, professionally bound. I would do that with a listing presentation, just because sometimes, you know, you show up at a listing presentation and it depends on them, right? They might be quite casual, right? Or they might, you know, expect the whole formal presentation, right? So a formal presentation would be more of a PowerPoint. But, you know, sometimes in a listing presentation, people, you know, they show you their home, you sit down at the kitchen counter and they want to pour you a cup of tea or whatever it is. And then you know that it's a more informal presentation, at which time, you know, yes, you have your laptop with your listing presentation, but you also have something bound. I wouldn't do that for buyers just because we are meeting hopefully so many buyers and printing that out is costly. So I would suggest, you know, if you are going to be bringing a buyer presentation to your showing, so in person, that you limit it to the MLS listing, the buyer's roadmap, you know, maybe an explained form in there. So you just kind of limit it. But you do have a PowerPoint presentation that you can send to them virtually by email before you get to that showing, or you have a virtual meeting with them, which I'll talk about next. But so the in-person meeting, yeah, just bringing some sort of a buyer's package with you, not printing out the whole thing. Again, having that questionnaire instead as a Google form, but definitely bringing something along with you that is helpful. I know that some people, you can get super creative with this, which is why this is kind of fun. If you know that you're meeting a family, for example, and they have young kids and they're going to be bringing their kids to the showings because they don't have childcare, whatever the situation is, you know, some people include, you know, coloring pages for the kids to be entertained while the parents, you know, explore the house, right? You might even have, if the kids are a little bit older, I've seen some realtors include a kid contract, right? That, you know, this is usually on the listing side, but, you know, we promise to keep our room clean and that sort of thing. It involves them with the process. So again, you can get really creative. If your target market is first-time home buyers, your buyer presentation might be a little bit different than somebody who is targeting families, how I just mentioned. So get creative with it, download these templates, but then start to think outside of the box and personalize it, make it yours, right? This is where your personality is going to shine as well. All right, so the buyer presentation, as I said already, you know, can include information about you, definitely the MLS listing, the buyer's roadmap, which I showed you at the beginning. Bring the buyer representation agreement and working with a realtor. Yes, we often get that signed at the time of the offer, but wouldn't it be nice to have that signed, you know, the first or second time you're meeting them? So bring that with you, talk to them about it. And if you've already done a good job of, you know, that initial conversation, that follow-up email, then yeah, hopefully they're ready to sign that BRA with you on the first showing. And then share with them maybe the agreement of purchase and sale, the explain form, and you know, just let them know this is included here for you to read. Let me know if you have questions, so that when I send this to you at the time of offer, you're not reading through 30, 40 pages of legal jargon. You've already read it beforehand. We've already talked about it. You're comfortable with it. So when the time comes, I'll just highlight what it is that you're offering, and you can go away and sign it, right? So having that buyer's package in person, just pieces of it in person, so you're not printing out this whole big thing. All right, so let's talk about the virtual meeting. So the buyer consultation online, you've got a Zoom consultation booked with them. Let me show you a buyer presentation that we can use. So the template that I recommend, because it's free, is from Breakthrough Brokers. So go ahead, Breakthrough Brokers highlighted there, and there's a bunch of different templates. Yes, they have the buyer presentation, they have listing presentations, they have cards, postcards that you can customize. So there's a bunch of stuff. I will also say Sidekicks Media is available for all of that, and they may, even if you do have a specific brand that you've already invested money in, you know, it's everywhere, it's on your business card, it's on your website, and you want something a little bit more personal, I will just remind you guys that Sidekicks Media is available. They're in the office and they can customize something like this, but with your branding. The Breakthrough Broker template does come in different colors. That's pretty much the extent of how you can download it or customize it, but you do have the option of obviously uploading your photo and the brokerage's logo and all of your contact information. So let me just switch screens here so that I can show you what this buyer presentation actually looks like. And let me know if you guys have comments. In the meantime, definitely let me know once you can see this buyer presentation, because sometimes I'm talking and you're still seeing my old screen. So hopefully you guys can see the Breakthrough Broker template. This is finding your new home. It's a blue template. Can you guys see that okay? Let me just make sure my share is on here. Can you see that now? Is that working? Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. So this is just a sample. So this is what you would download. Again, you can, thanks so much for letting me know. Yeah, so you can change your phone number, your email address, your website if you have it. Obviously, you want the Zolo logo on there. And then this one is just pretty straightforward. So let's talk about how it's set up. So again, you can email this to them for them to flip through themselves, or you can have a virtual consultation, much like what we're doing now, and you can thank them for their interest, right? Thank you for your interest in properties. I'm happy to help you. I prepared this guide so that I can walk you through the process and get to know a little bit about what it is that you're looking for. So first of all, let me start by introducing myself. So you would have a slide here that talks about you. Again, you know, not just professionally, but also personally. You can see here in the example, you know, this Jane Smith talks about, what does she talk about? She talks about being from Denver, Colorado. She's got 3 children. She enjoys hiking. So like I said, you know, making it a little bit more personal. And on the next slide, she talks about her career, right? So she's already trying to build that rapport and, you know, with common interests maybe, but then also talking, of course, about her career, maybe, you know, what she did before becoming a realtor, or just talking about your real estate achievements if you have those to share. If you're brand new, then you might want to highlight the industry that you're coming from, right? So this is a nice little timeline, again, that you can customize. You can change the dates and highlight what it is that you've done in the past, right? Any awards, any achievements, any certifications that you have over and above your license, definitely include them here. Here's a great slide as well, because this is an opportunity to talk about Zolo. And actually, I should have changed this slide because I have customized it so that you can talk about Zolo. So I talk about, and actually I'll show you mine as well so that you can see what it is, but I talk about how we are the #1 real estate app in Canada, right? This is where you're gonna find all of the listings. So, you know, I'm a member of the Toronto Real Estate Board. This is something you can say, but by exploring Zolo.ca, you're gonna see listings that are in your neighborhood that may not be listed on the Toronto's MLS board. You know, maybe it's on the Oakville Milton board, you know, so you'll have access to all of that by exploring the Zolo website. So letting them know, the value that is there for them, right? So definitely talk about Zolo and how, why you're aligned with them and how that benefits them, right? So really easy to search. And if you find anything from the listings that I'm sending you directly from the Toronto MLS system, let me know. But if you find something on Zolo that I haven't sent to you, also let me know and I'm happy to show it to you, right? So again, you're letting them know how the system works so that if you didn't send them something, they know that they can still come to you for a showing. All right, this is the buyer's roadmap that I already talked about. We already went through this. I think this is such a great slide. So even if you use it independently, I think it's really important to have to share with them. And then, as I said, to walk through all of the different stages and really explain what to expect, especially if they're first-time home buyers. But even if they're not, I had a lead come in the other day who said that he had purchased, but it turned out he had purchased directly from, they were all pre-sale properties. So, very different when you're dealing with resale. So still go through the process, talk to them, right? Even though they may not be first-time home buyers, they may not necessarily know this or remember it, even if it's been a really long time. So definitely go through it. And then, again, you can have an opportunity here. If this is a live virtual consultation that you're doing, you can have a conversation with them about, whether or not they're ready. So, and, it depends on your conversation. Maybe they have been pre-qualified and they know they're ready. Maybe they're just thinking about it. They haven't even spoken to a mortgage broker, then you can definitely talk to them about Zolo mortgages. Don't forget that is our new venture. So you want to be referring people to Zolo mortgages and just talking to them about, making sure that they have, a good credit score, steady income. They want to be at their job for a while. You're not mortgage brokers, but you can give, a little bit of information as to, what is going to be required, but put them in touch with Zolo mortgages if they don't already have a mortgage or pre-approval, so that you can talk to them about all of that. And again, here you could even replace this slide with Zolo mortgages, with contact information about that, or you can put them in touch directly with mortgages@zolo.ca. So there's a little plug for you guys, getting pre-approved. And then talking to them about their criteria, right? So again, that LP Mama script, that acronym that I introduced at the beginning, what's your desired location? What price point are you wanting to stay within? What kind of square footage do you need? Are you renting a property right now? Are you in a property that you've outgrown? Like, what ideally would you like to step into? How many bedrooms would you need? The different styles too. Sometimes people will say, oh, well, I want open concept. So that's not something that we can set as a criteria on Treb, but you can certainly say, I'm going to send you, all of the listings that match the location and the price and the square footage and the bedrooms. And then we'll just go manually through the pictures. And if you see that it's open concept and it matches what you want, then we can go ahead and take a look at it. If they're talking about wanting modern features, then maybe you select that the age be, less than 5 years or less than 10 years old, or keywords like renovated. So, really understanding what it is that they're looking for so you can set them up on an appropriate Treb search. So having that conversation with them, and then letting them know how it is that you're going to search for these properties, right? So again, setting yourself apart from all of the other agents, right? You're not just going to jump on MLS and send them these listings. You also have a network of agents that you work with here at Zolo, maybe even outside of Zolo. Maybe you're, on a Facebook group that talks about, properties that are coming soon to your neighborhood and it's posted by other agents, whatever it is. Talk to them about, how you are going to go above and beyond. And it's not just whatever hits MLS, but also, what you is coming soon through other agents, through your own network. You'll also be, maybe you talk to them about a custom search, or if you know of a for sale by owner, that you'll definitely bring that to their attention as well, and let them know that all of this will be automated, right? So you will set them up on a search, you'll get notified every day, and those are the brand new listings, those are the ones to jump on. So really expressing the importance of letting you know as quickly as something comes up to go and take a look, because it is a really competitive market, right? So that would be the search tools there. Again, talking to them about making an offer. You've already talked about it maybe with that roadmap, but talking about when you do fall in love with that home, what's going to be required. So here's where you talk about that deposit, making sure that they have it available, making sure that they know that that's going to be delivered within 24 hours of acceptance, or even maybe with the offer to really set your offer apart if you're in multiple offers, really securing their financing. Right now, if they have a pre-approval and you're shopping around, asking them how quickly you can get that confirmed, just because ideally you want to be going in without that condition, right? Just to make your offer stronger. Also let them know inspections. Sometimes the listing agent or the seller will have an inspection report already prepared for that listing, in which case you can, save yourself the cost of getting an inspection report done, and you can rely on that one. Oftentimes the question with that is, is it going to be biased? If the seller, ordered an inspection report, is that going to be biased? And just let them know that it would be done by a qualified home inspector who would, it's not the seller's brother or uncle that's doing the home inspection. So making sure it's done by a reputable company like Pillar and Post. And then yes, it is an impartial third party conducting the inspection. And yeah, they should be able to rely on that. So important dates such as, the sellers, they're wanting to move out on a certain date. Are they flexible? So having that conversation with them, talking about inclusions in the home, right? So typically you're going to see that the fridge, the stove, the dishwasher, all of that stuff is going to be included. And then, just making sure that if there's something special, if they really love that chandelier, making sure that that's included as well. So those are things that you discuss at the property, but you're giving them a heads up, right? What's typically going to be included. And if there's something you really like that custom desk in the nook upstairs, let me know if you want that too, and I can ask for it in the contract, right? And then letting them know it's going to go one of three ways. It's either going to be accepted, it's going to be countered, or it's going to be declined, right? So again, you'll prepare them to offer a fair price. It's still, a good number for the buyers, but still something that the seller is going to entertain, right? So if it is countered, you can talk to them about that process. And of course, if it's declined, then we move on to the next one, right? Because it is competitive. Maybe we learn something from the first round and we implement that in the second round when we apply for another property. So there you go. That's why it's important to have a presentation, just because you can talk to them about everything without forgetting anything. And so, of course, once the offer is accepted, this is where, you've already talked to them about the deposit, doing their due diligence, confirming financing, getting the inspection done. There will be an appraisal that needs to happen. Home insurance, that's usually, covered by the mortgage broker. They'll talk to them about that, and the mortgage details, of course, as well. So putting them in touch with Zolo Mortgages is obviously the easiest thing to do. And sometimes there's a final walkthrough. Sometimes in your contract, you may have, that the buyer is allowed to visit the property a couple of times before closing. They want to take measurements, that sort of thing. So that's definitely something that can happen as well. So talking to them about what happens after the offer gets accepted. You can talk to them about closing costs if you're comfortable with that. Sorry, I just jumped over that. But really, I usually leave that to the mortgage broker and the lawyers to talk about. But then last but not least, closing day. It's exciting, making sure that you're dealing with your lawyer and actually giving them a heads up that lawyer should be selected pretty quickly after the offer has been accepted, because the listing agent will want to know who the lawyer is on the buying side. So giving them your contact information to proceed, and then that really would be the end of your buyer presentation. So that's the breakthrough broker one. Let me see how I'm doing for time. Yeah, that's the breakthrough broker one. And as I said, it's very easy to customize. It's something that you can implement quite easily. And then last but not least, as I said, you can have a pre-recorded video. So if you feel like you might be nervous doing a Zoom presentation, you're not comfortable with that, you don't want to forget anything in the in-person meeting, then a great idea is to do a pre-recorded video. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to recommend. There's a platform called BombBomb. So I'll show you the slide up here. So it says right up at the top, BombBomb, and it does come at a cost. I'm sorry, I wish it was free, but YouTube is free. So that's your other option. So you can take the time, you can record the video, you can edit it in such a way that, comes off professionally. You've covered all the points you want to cover. And it's just something pre-recorded that you can send to your buyer leads. Again, it's a step beyond just sending them a PDF, right? Because now they're going to see you, they're going to see how you explain things, they're going to feel comfortable with you, hopefully, right? And so again, this is all about building loyalty so that they do use you, they work with you going forward. So really having some sort of a buyer presentation in place will definitely build that rapport and that trust to secure that loyalty from that client. So BombBomb Video, really great tool to use, and you can implement it in other ways in your business. So you can even do like quick recordings, you know, send responses if they're asking about a property or whatever, you know, then you're interacting with them sort of, I was going to say face to face. That's not really what you're doing, but they see you anyway. All right. Otherwise, you have the YouTube video. So I didn't share mine, but I will say that the PDF that I did mine in Canva, and I downloaded it as a PDF. And there's another website that I'm going to recommend to you guys. It's called, actually, there's quite a few of them, but if you Google flipping PDFs, it'll flip it like a magazine. So when you send them that link, instead of it being a PDF, it'll bring up your buyer presentation, and you can flip through it like a magazine, and it just looks just a little bit different, just a little bit more professional. Maybe I do have a couple minutes to show it to you. Can anyone recommend lawyers, or could you please share the lawyer information? So we do actually, on Thursday, we have David Woodside, I was gonna say, yeah. He's gonna be joining us on Thursday, and he's our in-house counsel. So he's based out of Toronto, but he can do closings anywhere. So if you don't have a lawyer that you often recommend, I recommend you recommend David, who will be joining us on Thursday. So I'll share all of his contact information. I don't have it here with me, but join me on Thursday and I'll share his contact information then. And he's definitely somebody that you can recommend to your buyers if you don't already have a lawyer that you're recommending. All right, so let me see if there are any other questions. Yeah, how are we doing? I hope you guys found that informative. I think that, you know, I was kind of forced to do a buyer consultation online simply because the buyer wanted it. They asked for it. They, you know, they wanted to meet. They wanted to go over the process before viewing properties, and they were not close to me at the time. And I said, you know what, why don't we do it virtually? And so anyway, that's why it was such a great experience. I felt like I was able to share way more information with them than if I was, you know, just rushing through it over the phone or trying to cover it in a showing. I just felt like it was really in depth. It was really thorough. They asked questions. And so that's why I thought it would be really important to share a webinar like this for you guys to implement it in your business and build that loyalty and trust from your clients. Yes, this video will be available afterwards for sure. How do you adjust the volume? I've got my volume set, I think just on your computer, you should be able to adjust it. Hopefully everybody else was able to hear me okay. All right, well, thanks you guys. So if those are all the questions, again, I hope you found this informative. I hope you implement it into your business. At least start with a breakthrough broker template. It's super easy. You can send that off to your clients, and honestly, it will set you apart and it will educate them on the process. Challenge yourself, do a Zoom call, do a Zoom consultation with your clients. Again, it'll be more interactive. It'll be way more fun for you to do. And it'll help you get to know them better, and it will help them trust you more, right? And eventually choose you to work with. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, you guys. Always fun putting these together, and I will see you on the next webinar. Bye. Have a good day.